All right, welcome. I am still in Florida. I'll be here for a couple more weeks, and it is beautiful. Just today, the weather is gorgeous. It's what Florida is what I was expecting of Florida, like high 60s, which of course, when you're out in the sunshine, it feels like in the 70s, which is lovely, especially since I'm taking a break from the frigid Frisco weather, which was, my daughter was telling me it was in the negative teens just last week. So I am super, super excited that the weather has shifted here because we had that winter storm that was moving through the southeast, I guess, because it affected quite a few states and it brought really cold temperatures to Florida that they're normally not used to. And people, when they found out I was from Colorado, they're like, "Oh, you brought it with you. Go back." And I'm like, "I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving till I experience this Florida weather." And sure enough, it's here. And last night, my daughter, her husband, and my two grandchildren came into town. So now we got a full house. They're at the beach today because today is the warmest day. Then for next week, it's going to dip down into the lower 60s. Today, I think is going to hit the high 60s. So they're taking advantage of today being nice and warm so that the kiddos can get their toes in the sand instead of having their toes in the snow, which they sometimes do. They do not mind walking in the snow barefoot, which blows my mind. But I didn't sign up for their experiences. I signed up for mine. But today we're going to do episode 230. Today we're going to look at continuing inside of understanding the forgiveness of illusions, which is in chapter 16, understanding what true empathy is all about, and the most important thing, probably, that I ever cover, and I haven't done this in a while, but I am definitely going to focus on this today. We touched on this in episode 227 a little bit when I did a hand drawing, speaking of how timelines are bifurcating. And for those of you who were in that class, when I put up this poster, this will be familiar. You probably remember this, Richard. I showed how, we enter the illusion. Yeah. We enter the illusion. We come in from the highest of frequencies. We're made not only in the image of God, but we're an aspect of God. So we come from the space where we are one with all that is. From our oneness, we, because we have free will, and this is what's so important to understand. Two things that are super important. We have free will. Love sets everything free to do what it pleases because love does not judge, does not condemn. If you are a parent, you have had that experience, that feeling with your child at some point. Usually it's only when the child is born. Typically, when you hold that perfection in your hands for the first time, we're usually in awe of, wow, that came from me. And in that moment, you feel this unbelievable love for that child. And when you have that experience, and again, not everybody has this experience, most do, but it's very fleeting because then comes the worry about the child. Is it healthy? Is it going to be okay? Am I going to have enough money to afford it? Am I even good enough to be a parent? All those things, then the ego kicks in. But just in that moment when you feel that unbelievable love, we also have moments where we feel that maybe when we're with our pet, maybe when we're in the middle of nature and we look at the vastness and go, wow. And when we can be in nature and recognize that some things will decay and from the decay comes new growth. And you stand back and you without judgment observe the grandeur of creation in those moments of transcendence of the egoic consciousness, we move to a place of recognizing what love is. Love does not judge. It creates without conditions. So we were created with zero conditions. And from that space of zero conditions, from that place, when we are totally, completely in total awe. Hello, sweet Lisa. So good to see you. Yay. from that place of utter love, God gives all of us free will to do whatever it is that we want to do, including turning our back on the truth of who we are. And God, source, spirit, creator, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter what we call it. The Course in Miracles calls it God because it is speaking primarily to a Western audience. Primarily, it is a Christian-based audience, and we have been taught to call it God. But if you call it creator, if you call it universe, find the word that is least triggering so that you can absorb the information, because that is what ultimately matters. We were created by a powerful creator to create, and we create with just as much power. The Course is really clear. The only difference between us and God is God created us. We did not create ourselves. That's it. We have the exact same power that God has to create, but we are not using the power to create consciously because we use it to miscreate, meaning we are born from the highest consciousness. From that high consciousness, we decide I'm going to have an experience of separation. That is what the ego is all about. I'm going to experience separation. And that's how you know it's ego, because you cannot be separate from what created you. Because if God is infinite and it's all that is, you are inside of God. The Course says we're in its mind, meaning when God imagined us, we never leave its mind. And in the fact that we are so loved, we are allowed to then, in our mind, pretend to be apart from God. So the ego is the opportunity for us to lower into a density that is pretty dark and deep and dense. The world of matter is projected from our decision to be separate from God. Cannot be separate, but to believe that we're separate from God. Which is why today I want to focus on one of the most important things that I could possibly ever teach. One of the most important things that the Course wants us to understand, and that is that everything is happening in two levels. Now, there is not like one level is better than the other. That's not what the Course wants us to believe. It is that there are two levels that we can operate in. Remember, love loves everything unconditionally. Love does not judge, absolutely does not judge. So, from high consciousness, being one with God, I call it the 5D level. We make the decision, actually, it's a higher level than that. However, well, let's just call it what it is. From the highest level, we make a decision to lower our frequency, to contract ourselves, if you will. When we contract ourselves to have that experience of separation, it's like the whole ocean, and all of a sudden, out comes this one little drop. And that one little drop is what we are. It doesn't mean you're not part of the ocean, but if you believe that you're just that drop, then you drop. How interesting. No pun intended, but I guess it was intended. Then you drop into the lower frequency of the third dimension. In the third dimension is the ability to believe, because we're creators like God, to believe that I am separate from God and separate from everybody else. In this lower frequency, if I believe I'm separate and I'm going to see the other as being able to do only two things. One, to love me and be good to me. Two, to hurt me and not be good to me, which is why the Course goes in depth into explaining why relationships are either special love or special hate. When we believe that you love me, and all of us have experienced that. We all have had a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a best friend, a sibling. I love you, or a parent. I love you. You are the one that makes me feel so good. You are the one that makes me whole and complete. And we even say things like that. You make me whole and complete, which is impossible. However, if they don't continue to do what we want them to do, for us to feel loved and live inside of that illusion that they make us whole and complete. If they begin to pull away in any way, shape, or form, maybe they're not intentionally pulling away, but they're not giving you what you want. If instead of spending, the afternoon with you, they make other plans, and you feel abandoned, you feel rejected. Well, if that happens on a regular basis, the ego will then keep track of those things and then begin to give power to the idea of special hate, meaning you've hurt me. And if you hurt me enough times, then I want you out of my life. The reason that is possible is because in 3D, we can make things feel real. Why? Because we're a powerful creator, created by God to create. So we're creating. But in the 3D realm, we miscreate. What we miscreate is because we're missing the mark. If you look at the true definition of sin, it is a Greek terminology for archery. So when you are pulling that bow back, and that arrow shoots out, it hits a target. If you shoot the center of the target, then you made the mark. If you shoot outside of that target, you sin. That's all that sinning means. You sinned. You missed the mark. It's just a term. So what has happened is that term has been co-opted by religion to tell us that we're sinners. And in truth, we are sinners because we've missed the mark. But religion doesn't teach you that you missed the mark. Religion tells you that you are dirty. You were born dirty. You were born unholy. You were born a wretch. Like that song, I was a wretch, and, now I'm healed, but whatever. I think it's an amazing grace. None of us is born a sinner at all. We make a decision to incarnate, go through the birth experience, and when we pop out is like we pop into the illusion of separation. There's doctor, there's mommy, there's daddy, there's all these other people out there, and that's why little babies, and it takes them a while to adjust. And they sleep so much because they got to go back to the truth of who they are, because this is a scary world. All these beings are so big that they're like aliens. So it takes those little babies a while to adjust, and then they begin to pick up on the game of separation. I can't live without you, mom. You're my source of sustenance. I've got to get my milk from you. And then later on, I can't live without you, dad. I can't live without you, grandma, or parents, or friends, or siblings, or teachers, or bosses, or boyfriends and girlfriends. The world of 3D is the level of separation. It is the lowest level you can experience as a human, because, there's nothing lower than to feel separate from God and to believe things that are not true about you. That's as low as we can go. That is what suffering is all about. Now, the other level that the Course teaches, two levels: the level of the 3D world of separation and the level of knowing the truth of who we are. Both of these coexist because we're in the mind of God. So we're not outside over here creating a level. We're a level within a level. So it's like, think of the universe. You don't even have to go that far. Let's think of just our planet. The planet is all of it. We'll call that the 5D level, if you will. That's the level where we're one. We're all members of the same planet, but within the planet, we have different levels. Different countries are different levels. And even within those countries, we have different levels. You come to America, you've got the haves and the have-nots. You've got the ones in the red states and ones in the blue states. You've got people who swim, people who don't swim. You can begin to subdivide and have levels within levels within levels. And I hope that makes sense. Focus only on two levels if you want to wake up from the dream. You're in the mind of God, having your own ideas about what is going on, about who you are. That level of you thinking your own thoughts is the realm of the ego. This is where suffering happens, because to believe that you're apart from the creative source is to miscreate. is to make up your own ideas. If you are accepting that you are as God created you, you're not going to miscreate. You're going to create from love. All of your creations will be in service to the greater good of all. If you are focused on what do I do to take care of me, and I gotta pay my bills, and I've got to add to my bank account, and I've got to do things that are satisfying to me. I don't care about anybody else. It's just all about me. You're miscreating. You're missing the mark. And the reason we're missing the mark is that when we are creating selfishly, it has consequences. Maybe not immediately, which is why so many of us fall into this illusion and don't realize it until much, much later. For many people, it's in their deathbed that they realize, oh my gosh, I would have loved to have spent more time with people. I would have loved to um, been more generous, been kinder, been nicer to the people that I was so mean to. You start wanting to forgive people who hurt you because you realize that it's a heavy, heavy weight to carry the beliefs that you are alone and you're separate and you're powerless and you got to take care of you. So when you understand those two levels, it's very simple. What are you believing? I've got another chart to make it even simpler still. Are you thinking with the ego? Then you are miscreating. And the reason I keep using that word is if you are miscreating, you're missing the mark. So yes, you are sinning in essence. You're utilizing the power God gave you to create to miscreate because you're creating things that don't ultimately fulfill you. Operating in fear, in darkness, how does it help you to walk around afraid of death? How does it help you to walk around afraid that somebody's going to rob you, that you're not going to be happy, that you're not going to find the ultimate partner, that you're not going to get the home that you desire, that you're not going to find the job that you want? Those things do not serve you ultimately. Now, if you're in the level of the egoic world, if you're down here, you're going to say, well, that motivates me to look for a job, to take care of myself so I look and present myself better when I'm out dating. You can use it as motivation, but you are in the 3D world. This is why we have honesty as a characteristic of somebody who has learned to live in the higher level. The higher frequency, you're not worried about, are you going to find the right person? Are you going to get the right job? You know you are entitled to that because your desire for it is going to attract it. You're a creator. There is no worry. There's no concern. There's only a knowingness, but you also have the characteristics of patience that you know it's going to come at the right time. When you're in the 3D world, you are always operating in the fear that it's not going to come. You're thinking about the future without that job, the future without that person, and you're going to be miserable. Or you're imagining the future with that person, and you spend years of your life imagining what it's going to be like someday when I find this person and we get married, and then the mind goes off creating, because you're a creator, imagining this world that you'll have, and then all of a sudden you're past the years when you think you have it and you get to that future, and now you're imagining, oh, I failed, I didn't do it, I didn't accomplish it, and now you're beating yourself up for what you didn't create in the past. Ego is always going to be torturing you because its job is to keep you inside of a lie. All the ego is a lie that we have believed about ourselves that is not the truth. Of course, if it's a lie, it's not the truth. The truth of who we are is that we're a powerful creator who incarnated into a world that for thousands upon thousands of years has been believing the lie and perpetuating it. The systems that are breaking down, that we're seeing out there breaking down, are the systems that have been set up by the people who have been here the longest, and they have perpetuated those systems like religion. How many thousands of years do we need to experience not trusting what Jesus said is true? 2,000 years ago, as a matter of fact, he was crucified for telling us that we have a direct connection to God, that I and the Father are one. Because if you knew what the Father is, which religion has lied to us about, told us that it's some, bearded man on a cloud somewhere that, like Santa Claus, decides to give you presents if you're nice, and if you're bad, if you're naughty, he's going to turn you into a pillar of salt. So we have been believing, like little children, a fantasy. We've been sold a fantasy story, but we all incarnate to drop into that story, to play in that level. What is happening now more than ever is that many of us who've been in the 3D merry-go-round, we've had plenty of incarnations. We decided, you know what, this is the time I'm going to pop out of this illusion. I'm going to ascend to the truth of who I am, and to have the experience of awakening and ascend. You can awaken in the 3D world, and you begin to see, the process of awakening starts when it's like, okay, something is off. To ascend means you are awake, deliberately choosing to do the work to raise yourself into a higher frequency. Meaning, to do that, you need to know what is not true and what is true, and then you choose between the two. That's what you're always doing, choosing between believing the illusion or believing the reality with a capital R. So the Course wants us to understand that the minute that we accept that God created us to create like it, is the beginning of accepting how powerful we are. Now, if you are operating in the 3D world and you're beginning to accept that you're powerful, and your ego's running the show, and maybe even ego is all spiritualized, which happens to all of us, we all have to go through that process, you will use that power, which is called mind control. Because you understand, if I was created to create, what am I going to create with? My hands? Can I create a whole new planet with my hands? No, you can't. You can barely create flowers in a flower pot, or maybe even a garden in the size of your yard. You can't go change the planet with your hands. So it's not a physical body thing. But with your mind, you can imagine yourself as the gardener that is changing everything. And you can even conceive of a planet where you are the master gardener and only beautiful flowers bloom. And I'm sure there's a planet somewhere, because if somebody has had that thought, that is their lived reality in that dimension. Maybe not here. Maybe here they still imagine. Why do you think little children, when they are in the schooling process, another system that is collapsing, it has to collapse because it's totally corrupt. And when I say it's corrupt, it's because it is not focused on what is best for the child. It is focused on what is best for the controllers of the education system. I'm talking maybe not even necessarily the teachers, maybe not even the principals, but beyond that, when you get into the board of education and all of that, crazy amounts of money that funnels there, that doesn't necessarily ever even get to do the good things that they're supposed to do for children. So when you understand the power of the mind to create, if you are selfishly oriented, which you are when you're in ego, you will then operate with mind control. I'm not going to go down that tangent. You can definitely research that, but a lot has been done to control the mind of men and women, to control what you believe. Again, that's what religion does, controlling that God is outside of us and not that we are one with God. So that a few, if you take this little pyramid of the haves and the have-nots, the few that control the world are the ones, not all, most, are so selfishly oriented. And if you think about it, how many billions or trillions does any one family or any one person need to be happy when we have millions of people starving? That tells you right there, anybody who is not sharing, because another characteristic of a teacher of God is generosity. When we are one, what would you want to hold on to yourself when you have a brother or sister who is lacking? So we know that money doesn't satisfy that need to be in control. Power and money, that's the combination. Then you utilize your resources to do things to control the minds of people. Education system, the financial system. I mean, look at what's happening with the financial system. The few control the many. If you take this pyramid and you turn it upside down, this is where the few are, in the lowest of densities, in the most disconnected places from God that you can possibly be. Again, you can't be fully disconnected because you're in the mind of God, but you have the experience of being so separate from God, and you think you are God, and then you're in charge of the systems for other people. You're in charge of the financial system, and if it's all about you making money and your stockholders, then it doesn't matter who gets hurt. Can you say 2008 housing bubble, where only a few got bailed out with the money of the many? I mean, when you start paying attention, you begin to realize that the medical system, go to the medical system and show me where in the collective medical system of the and I'm talking about the Western allopathic medical system, what they do is truly for the greater good of all. If you dive deep, the system itself was created for profit. Now, you have a lot of wonderful people who enter that system, who enter unknowingly. And what happens? Mind control. Their minds are controlled by the education that is fed into them that tells them that this is what you do to fix this or to cure that. And then you go out into the world, you establish yourself as a doctor, and you regurgitate what you were taught. So, Lisa, I'm sure you can agree with me on that. Then you've got the other side, people who truly want to help and bring about as much healing of their brothers and sisters as is possible. But those systems bump up against the Western system, this is how it is, a Rockefeller medical system. And those who are wanting to really bring about healing and well-being understand that there is a holistic system that we have to work with. The mind has been controlled, so we're retraining the mind into natural things, organic things, but also the emotional system gets hijacked. And where does the emotional system reside? It resides in a body that if you don't do the emotional work, your body's going to become denser and denser. And in that density, of course, it's going to start failing. You start putting concrete into your pipes, in time, they're going to get clogged. You start putting emotional sewage into your body vessel, eventually it's going to get clogged. So there are two systems that are operating. You could call it two levels. There's the level of wholeness, of returning a person into the truth of who they are to do the work that is in alignment with honoring your body vessel, honoring your mind, honoring your heart, your emotions. And then there's the level of, let's get a quick, we're going to deal with the symptoms right now. Let's just make you not feel bad. Take this pill, take this shot, take this whatever. All of these systems that feed the 3D world of greed, of selfishness, of fear, of separation are going to collapse because in this incarnation, we want to ascend to a higher way of operating. And when we study in the course, we started last week on chapter 16, the forgiveness of illusions. Lisa, if you have your Course in Miracles book, we are in chapter 16, page 330 in my book, if you have it handy. If not, I'm going to read it. So last week we looked at the forgiveness of illusions, and this section number 1 is called true empathy. The things that we have to understand about true empathy is that in the world, we empathize to support the suffering of another person. I am so sorry that happened to you. That's terrible. You lost, this person. That is terrible. That must hurt so much. Oh, you poor thing. How are you going to get along without them? Or you lost your job. Oh no, that was such a good job. Oh my gosh. And job market is so hard right now. It's going to be difficult to find a job. We support in the suffering. True empathy, the way the Course teaches it, you have to be up here. You don't come down here to join in the low frequencies. From here, You hug that person, you hug that friend, that sibling, that whomever is hurting, and you hold your frequency in this consciousness. Your body may be hugging them, but you hold your frequency, meaning you operate with the knowledge at the level of truth, where you recognize you're a powerful being. Now, you may not say these words if they're not ready to hear these words. These words would sound very unloving to somebody in the illusion. But in your mind, you have to hold the truth, because if you're not speaking truth, you know you're being dishonest. In your mind, you hold that person and you recognize that even though your words could say, honey, I know this is a tough time for you, you're honoring that. And you give them a big ol' hug. In your mind, you're saying, whatever is happening now is an opportunity to reveal what is possible for you, because you're strong and you're going to get through this. Something is going to happen to help you find a way through this. It may take you a year to move through the death of this loved one. It may take you 10 years, but you will find the strength within you to carry on. You hold that as the truth. True empathy states, I know you're a powerful creator of your own reality. You recognize, I was lost and now I'm found. I was a sinner. I was always missing the mark. I was constantly shooting at the wrong thing, believing that I was less, believing that the outside completed me, always expecting something else to take responsibility for me, whether it was the government or the boss or the lover. Somebody else had to be responsible. This is why the blame game is prevalent in the 3D world. You raise your consciousness, you ascend your consciousness by doing the inner work that takes you from courage into the level of neutrality, where you stop judging and you start observing. You become the observer of what's happening in the world. And then you can easily assess, are they in the 3D world? They're suffering, they're in fear, they're in anger, they're in judgment, they're in blame. Or are they in the higher frequency? When I meet somebody who is going through a tough time and they're in their 3D world, the conversation is very different than with some of my friends and my clients who are in the 5D, operate from the 5D consciousness. Somebody loses their spouse here. They recognize, okay, I've got grief going through me. I'm going to just be with that grief. They don't need to be talked out of it. They don't need to be told, oh, this is terrible. They don't need your agreement. You simply hug them. And when they come out, when they want to connect with you, you connect, and they want to celebrate. Wow, I was so peaceful through this process. I've had several clients that I've walked through the death of their spouses with them while they were moving into that place of ascension, and their journey with those losses was magical. They would be telling me about the times that they could feel their spouse in the room with them, talking to them, sharing through visions, ideas, and they didn't feel total loss. They felt a shift from physical to spirit, but they felt the connection. They want to talk about those wonderful experiences. And I've had clients who have had losses and they were stuck down here. And some spent years of their lives in suffering, in I can't be happy again. I don't know how I'm going to make it. And that's okay, because we're powerful creators creating what we want to experience. That is one of the statements that liberates you. I am a powerful creator creating what I want to experience. When you realize, do I want to keep experiencing suffering? And it dawns on you, wait a second, if I change my thoughts, mind control, I take control of my mind instead of somebody else controlling it and tell me what to believe. What do I want to experience instead? Well, I still miss them, but do I want to suffer? To not suffer, you have to have the courage to move into neutrality, which means you look at the thing as not good or bad, as just it is what it is. They're not here. Did I manage life before they were here? Maybe I met them in my 20s for 20 years before they showed up. Did I manage to live? Could I go to the bathroom? Could I go to dinner? Could I still clean the house? You did before you met them. So what makes you think that you can't get out of bed and you can't live without them? And we got all these songs, oh, I can't live without you. That's not true. That's where the ego creates these illusions that we're beholden and we need others or something else outside of ourselves to be okay. We have to make a decision. Are we going to operate at the level of the lies, or are we going to operate at the level of truth? The journey there is what the spiritual journey is all about. The path is a path. Literally, you have to move through stages of shifting how you think. You take control of your mind and you begin to think like a powerful creator, not like a victim of circumstances. And this is why this is why so many people who are inside of the movement that we'll call it liberal, we'll call it woke, we'll call it whatever you want to call it. These are loving people whose minds have been hijacked into blaming and shaming those who are not doing what they want them to do. Nobody who is operating in their right mind, which is what the Course calls it, when you operate in your right mind and you see clearly, there is nobody out there to blame. It doesn't mean in the world that there aren't people blaming and there aren't people who are responsible, but it's not our job as one who is ascending to point the fingers and then go out and take revenge on that. You're not going to see me marching and shouting at somebody that I disagree with. I'm going to stay right here where I can have that awareness in my mind. And if I am called, if I'm inspired to participate in anything, it will not be to go out there and point fingers, because that is a waste of my energy. I'm using my energy to co-create something that elevates. So how I use my time for those things that I do believe in is going to be very different than out there pointing fingers and shouting and yelling and creating mayhem. That doesn't solve anything. It perpetuates the pain and suffering. So we read, I'm going to just do a couple of highlights that in paragraph number 2, this was in sentence number 5, make no mistake about this maneuver, talking about the ego. The ego always empathizes to weaken, and to weaken is always to attack. When you say, you poor thing, this is terrible, you're weakening the other and you are attacking their truth. You're saying, ego to ego, speaking from one ego to another, you poor thing. That is saying you're not powerful. That is an attack on their holy selves. To empower is to sit here and know the truth for them, even if you can't say it because they can't hear it. It's not loving to say something to somebody that they cannot hear. So it tells us that in sentence number 6, you do not know what empathizing means, yet of this you may be sure. If you will merely sit quietly by and let the Holy Spirit relate through you, you will empathize with strength and will gain in strength and not in weakness. To get quiet means you have to be in neutrality. You're not busy judging things, good or bad, right or wrong. So the mind has to be quiet. You have taken control of your mind. You're choosing to not believe things that puts people into 2 categories, the good and the bad, the right and the wrong. In neutrality, you say, Holy Spirit, what's happening here? And you are going to know. You will know with every fiber of your being, if you're at this level, that these are 2 powerful creators who have soul contracts playing out roles. Maybe they're playing out the role of the killer and the one killed, of the abuser and the one being abused. You see them from that place. You strengthen in your own mind first, and it's going to come out in how you treat them. You're powerful creators. Now, that victim is not going to be able to hear you're a powerful creator that you created getting shot. And that bully that shot them, if you were to say to them, oh, you're a powerful creator, they're going to go, yeah, damn right. I shot that bitch, or I shot that idiot, or whatever it might be. That's not helpful. But in your mind, you're connecting soul to soul. This is the whole point of Namaste. Spirit in me sees spirit in you. And you remind those beings you're a powerful creator. Look at the role that you chose to create. Now, we're not there yet, because in humanity, we have been so disconnected from each other, we really think we need a phone to talk to each other. Here, When we reconnect with the truth of who we are, we're telepathic. What you think about another, it will get communicated. They may not be able to hear it down here because you're talking not on your device. You're not using the phone. You're using telepathic communication. But when you operate from the frequency of honesty, you cannot tell somebody, even if they're in the illusion, anything other than the truth of who they are. You powerful being, you're going to get through this. And again, if all you can do in the physical world is give them a hug and just say, "Oh, I'm right here for you. What can I get you? Can I get you groceries? How can I help? How can I be of service?" Serve however you're inspired to serve, but take control of your thoughts, because your thoughts are cementing, they're grounding in the truth, the reality you want to live in. If you want to live in a reality where people are operating from their goodness and not shooting each other, not yelling or lying or stealing or, being corrupt in this world, you can't keep pointing at what is in the 3D world. Because if you're pointing at what is in the 3D world, you're not in neutrality if you're judging this. If you want to get out of the 3D world, you got to unpack, let go of your 3D stuff, cut those tethers, and move into the world you want to experience. You cannot continue to bash the medical system or the education system and then send your children there or take yourself there. You have to let go of the old system and begin to support the new one. If we want a world of happy people, we need to recognize that they are powerful enough to create there. But while they're choosing not to, you still honor their power. Again, maybe in your own mind, don't see anybody as a victim here. That is not helpful, not in this journey. It's absolutely helpful down here because it solidifies the illusion. But if you're trying to ascend and get out of the illusion, don't fortify it. I mean, it's like me. I prefer to do my healing holistically. With everything that I just went through, holistically is my first choice. And when that is the commitment, I cannot continue to put the food in my mouth or in my body that has the most GMOs or that has the most stuff in it that is not healthy. I cannot send my grandkids to the education system that I know is going to fill their minds with misinformation. Then I'm going to have to volunteer my time, as my daughter wants to homeschool, to the homeschooling process. So you got to decide. It's like that old saying, I know it's crude, but shit or get off the pot. If you're going to stay down here and be part of that, then be honest with yourself that that is what you are focusing on. If you want to be here and it takes time to train your mind to ascend, then begin to recognize that everybody is a powerful creator, because you will not honor your own power if you don't recognize it in others. Because as you see things out there in the world that before you judged as a creation by powerful beings who have soul contracts, then who is a victim here? Now, that is truth at this level. At this level, they're playing the role of victim and bully. So yes, that is a reality with a small r here in the world of illusions. But they're powerful creators, no different than an actor playing the role. One is playing the role of victim, one is playing the role of bully in this movie. The next movie, maybe they swap roles. The next incarnation, maybe they swap roles. You have to decide, are you looking at things through the lens of illusion? Then you're miscreating and misjudging and holding that as your reality. You're going to get more of that. Or are you prepared to make the choice that takes a lot of courage? And it's usually, it's the less traveled path. Begin to see everybody as a powerful creator, and then begin to recognize what you prefer, and then be a part of that. The new earth is being created right now. We have pockets of truth that has sprung all over the place. Find those groups, find those people. You will resonate with them, and everybody will be there to support each other. So let's go to paragraph number 4. Well, before I start reading paragraph 4, let me read what is right above that in sentences 10, 11, and 12. When your mind only focuses on the statement that is stated here, it changes you completely. I read it last week. I'm going to read it again. I am not alone, and I would not intrude the past upon my guest. Meaning, I'm not going to keep bringing the old stuff. When I'm sitting here, I'm not alone. I'm with the Holy Spirit. I'm with God, whatever you want to call it. I'm listening to my inner intuition. I am not going to bring the past. Oh, this terrible thing happened to me. Holy Spirit, help me fix what, somebody left me. Don't intrude on your guest that is here to help you ascend stuff from the past. Stay quiet. If you're in neutrality, you have nothing to say about the past. You are open-minded, another characteristic of a teacher of God. You are open to hearing something new. Sentence 11. I have invited him and he is here. I have invited the truth of God and it is here. Sentence 12. I need do nothing except not to interfere. If somebody is over here and they're mad and angry, listen, I've got so many friends, especially in Atlanta, from my old spiritual days, out busy marching and protesting and angry and posting things on their Facebook pages. I don't even go to any of those. I don't even say anything. There's nothing to say. This is the reality that they want to experience. I let them be. I love them. I watch that on their pages and I just say, and I don't post this. Wow, powerful creators. They're giving more power to the three-dimensional world. That's perfectly okay. But for me, I hear the Holy Spirit saying, bless them, love them. On this journey of ascension, we are in a bifurcation. Not everybody is choosing the same frequency. If somebody wants to remain in the lower frequency, who are you to not allow a powerful creator to choose whatever it is that they want to experience? Love says you have free will from God to have whatever you want. And I honor what you're preferring, but I'm at a time of bifurcation. And now I see between the two and I prefer this. This is not better than this. It's very different. The lower dimensions, the 3D world is very, very viable. It's the world of separation of mine and yours and haves and have-nots and people who have more than enough, people who have nothing. It's okay. God gave us free will to create. If that is what we're using our mind to create, who are we to say you're doing it wrong? If you say you're doing it wrong, you don't know who you are. You don't know who they are. You don't know that God created you with free will. Work on you. Work on you and get your mind straight. Take control over your mind and begin to move into neutrality. And neutrality is just above courage. So you have to have a lot of courage to stop judging. And when you have the courage to stop judging, then you are practicing listening and not interfering. Paragraph 4 says, true empathy is on him who knows what it is. You will learn his interpretation of it if, big word, if you let him use your capacity for strength and not for weakness. Holy Spirit, I just lost my job. I just lost my mother. What is the strongest way for me to look at this? What would be the most loving way for me to look at this? The number one thing, Holy Spirit, God wants us to know is you are a creator. What do you want to create? Do you want to create suffering? Then see it as a loss. Do you want to create to extend the kingdom? Then see it as a transition. It's an opportunity to move on to something else. If the job left, something else will show up. Maybe you're in the wrong job. Maybe you've been talking about leaving for 10 years and you haven't done something, so you got fired. Look at it as an opportunity. If you want to suffer, then it's a problem. It's a problem and it took something from you and now you have been weakened by it. If it's an opportunity, where am I going to get the strength to get through this? Well, You know where you're going to get the strength? Where it's always been, in your ability to decide what story do you want to make up about it. In the beginning, go through the grieving process. Do not deny that. Do not bypass that. I'm sick. I'm angry. I feel terrible. I feel sadness. Just let that move through you. You stay quietly. Oh, there's grief. Cry it out. If it takes you a week, it takes you a month, cry it out. But always stay as the observer of what's happening. As the observer, oh, crying is happening. Sadness is moving through me. Now that energy, those emotions is energy that gets put into motion, and you are with it. And in the now, you experience it, and then it releases. It releases because you're not denying it. You're not stuffing it. You're not wallowing in it. When you decide to see things as opportunities, and you stay as the observer and don't intrude in the inspiration that's coming, new ideas are going to come through. New ideas that is not the way the world sees things, but it's how God wants us to begin to look at things. Why? Because we're creators and God created us to create, and the expansion of the kingdom depends on us participating on the expansion of the kingdom. We have been here contracting the kingdom on this planet. Most of the planet has been contracting the kingdom, making it less and less and less viable for us here. When you begin to ascend, you make it more and more viable for all. The selfishness goes away, the greed goes away. It has to. Why? Because we're one, we're connected. We recognize that it has to be so. If God is infinite, we're all within God. That's what infinite means. Omnipotent, omniscient, all of those words signify it's not here and then I'm over here. It means it's all of it and I must be inside of it. And then you tap into new ideas that need to be birthed, but they need a viable vessel that wants to birth these new ideas. Sentence number 3, he will not desert you, but be sure that you desert him not. Stop inviting the Holy Spirit, give me inspiration, and then start regurgitating, but this is terrible. I can't believe this happened to me. That is to put a wall between you and the inspiration that you requested. Sentence number 4 says, humility is strength in this sense only, that to recognize and accept the fact that you do not know is to recognize and accept the fact that he does know. This is the strength that we have been completely mind controlled out of. We have been told that God has the power, all the power up there. I have no power. And I got to plead to God to give me power. And the church has been perpetuating that story. You got to go to the church, Wednesdays and Sundays and give money, and then God will forgive you after you confess your sins. Or it's you go to school, the teacher knows best. Or if it's at home, father knows best. Or it's the government knows best. The military knows best. Somebody else knows better. That is one of the greatest lies that we must recognize is so not helpful. The truth is, God created you to create. In you is the power to decide what to believe. And when you move through this journey, it becomes really clear. When you're believing with God, you're feeling lighter and happier and more expansive. You feel peace. In that peace, inspiration flows. If you're believing with the ego, you feel contracted and tight and tense. Your body does not lie. It tells you. That's why when you're hurting, I got to address something. When you're happy and everything is flowing, who do you go to ask? Oh, what's wrong with me? Only maybe if you're hypochondriac. I live with a mother who was a hypochondriac, and her mind, she would make up all kinds of illnesses. But if you are at peace, you're hearing inspiration. Do not change what you're doing. But if you are in anger, in frustration, you have closed off. Now you think you know better because the ego's talking to you, and that's the voice that you're letting guide you. So the real strength is the strength to recognize I'm the one. I'm the one who opens the door to God, to peace, to inspiration that elevates all of us, or I'm the one who shuts it based on what it is that I'm thinking. If my thoughts are based on limitation, on separation, on there's not enough, on I am not good enough, on somebody's better than me, you've just blocked. You just shut the door. Nothing new can come into the mind that is regurgitating the same old thing. That's why insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And Course in Miracles is such a different way of looking at the world, but it will give you a very different result. Most people who go into the course and skim it, they didn't get much of anything. If anything, that's a book is so dense, it's so difficult to read, blah, 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 blah. Those who dive in and stick with it, and I'm going to say multiple years, stick with it and try to apply into their lives what the Course says, experience an incredible shift. That's why it's really, Jesus's teachings are the only ones that you're going to hear me really focus on. Why? Because they work. They worked 2,000 years ago. They crucified him because he was telling us what to do. Love your neighbor, love yourself, love God. That's it. That happens in this frequency. You can't be hating on your neighbors and judging your neighbors and be in that frequency. It doesn't happen. You can't jump in the water and think that you're going to be dry. If you want to be dry, get out of the water. If you want to be happy, get into the love frequency, the happy frequency. You can't keep swimming in this and thinking that you're somewhere else. Sentence number 5 says, you are not sure that he will do his part because you have never yet done yours completely. Big statement. We doubt that God is going to be there because we don't operate from the trusting of God. So we got to train our mind to learn how to trust and then have faith. And guess what? In the beginning, we're asking God, we're saying, yes, I want to hear what you have to say. And maybe we're reading the course, we're doing the lessons, and it may not be changing. That's because we have been putting out a frequency of density. It's going to take a little while to change things around. It's going to take some time to get that out of us. It's like if you have a pool that's dirty, and you want it to be clean and you put the hose in there, it's not changing. You got to drain that water. You're going to have to figure out a way to get that dirty water out. Or you can leave the hose on for a long time and eventually the old will come out. That's what the Course in Miracles is giving us. New information. It's like that old saying in the Bible, you cannot put new wine in old skin. So you got to get the new information. You got to let it come in, let it come in, let it come in before the old begins to go away, because you have to trust that what you are being told is going to work. Well, when people first tell us, I know for me, when people first told me this world is an illusion, I was like, what? Okay, I'm going to trust it because it's in, Jesus says it is, and I trust Jesus. So I'm going to trust it's an illusion, but it feels really solid to me. It felt really bad when that person yelled at me or lied to me. That felt, but why did it feel bad? Because I'm believing the illusion. So how to train my mind, little by little, shift what I was thinking about the situation and that person before I began to feel something different while I was still swimming inside of that density. So you're not sure that God is going to do their part because you have never done yours completely. I was learning to do my part. You cannot know how to respond to what you do not understand. That this is logic. So we've got to have grace with ourselves. It's going to take a little while to do things differently. Be tempted not in this, and yield not to the ego's triumphant use of empathy for its glory. Don't be tempted to let the old ways of doing things pull you back into the density that you say you don't want to be in. Next time there is an irritation, know that it's just an invitation for you to look at your ego's motivation. for you to sit with that thing. What is this teaching me? Become an observer. Take an inventory of all of your thoughts and write them down. This is going to happen. 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 And then run it through a system. Is this about a lie or is it about the truth? Is this about suffering or is it about well-being? Is it about sickness or is it about health? Is it about lack or is it about abundance? Is it about judgment or acceptance? This is what I teach in Shift and Lift. And at some point, I'm going to start doing a once a month open shift and lift so people can come and use the worksheet and just do the work. That's what it is. You got to shift your mind. But you got to know what to shift your mind to, which is what the course gives us. But we're going to be tempted to continue to do what the ego says because it's familiar. It's familiar and it's quick and it's reactive. And it gives us that high that the ego loves. To do it the way of God, to do it the way of love, takes time. We're not used to it. We haven't been doing it that way. So we got to give ourselves some grace, practice gentleness with ourselves. Paragraph 5, the triumph of weakness is not what you would offer to a brother. Don't see them as victims. And yet you recognize no triumph but this. You poor thing, this is terrible. That's where we go. This is not knowledge. It's programming, by the way. And the form of empathy which would bring this about is so distorted that it would imprison what it would release. Every time we see somebody as a victim, we think we're helping them. We're imprisoning them into something that is so solid. Now everybody participates in that. We build the GoFundMe for the victim. Not that there's not an appropriate assistance, but what is a mind that is assisting with? Are you assisting with this is to help you get through this? Or are you, oh, you poor thing, you deserve to be compensated for what you endured? Very different ways of looking at things. And I'll read that again. Sentence number 3, this is not knowledge. And the form of empathy which would bring this about is so distorted that it would imprison what it would release. The unredeemed cannot redeem, yet they have a redeemer. Until I moved myself to a place of neutrality, which again takes a lot of courage, I could not redeem somebody who was in victim mode because I was resonating with the victimization because it was reminding me of mine. I had to move to where I no longer judge myself a victim or a bully, and I was seeing myself in neutrality before I could begin to see, oh, wow, these people are believing a story. They don't remember that they're a powerful creator. The unredeemed cannot redeem, but we have a redeemer. We have the truth. Do you want to find the truth and use it? That takes courage. Sentence 5, attempt to teach him not. Don't try and tell God how it is. You are the learner, he the teacher. Do not confuse your role with his, for this will never bring peace to anyone. Look at religion. I'll stick to the Catholic Church because that's what I'm familiar with. Look at Catholicism, Christianity. They call themselves, the teachers, the popes, the preachers, the archbishops. They had all the knowledge, but yet they kept telling me that I'm separate from God. They put themselves in the role of the teacher, but they didn't operate from that truth. The few that did eventually, we turned them into saints. But the real teacher can only be God, and God teaches only truth, and it's going to come back to tell us, you're one with me. Jesus said it. So many have said it. We are powerful creators. Stop operating like an immature child and move into the maturity of one who thinks with God, one who has humbled ourselves enough to say, you know what, I'm going to accept that I'm powerful. If I accept that I'm powerful, so is everybody else. Now, what do I want to see in the world? A world of people who remember that they're powerful. And at the same time, remember that they're holy, remember that they're loving, remember that they are created to help each other because we're connected. We are truly one. That's what I want to have as my reality. That is the happy dream the Course promises is possible, but your mind has to be set straight. And you're not going to find those teachings in the 3D world because the 3D world are the block to those teachings. Again, they killed Jesus because he was telling us how to achieve that higher consciousness. Do you want 2,000 more years of this bullshit? Or do you want to do whatever it takes to get you there as soon as possible? Why rush? Why not? Why suffer? Why extend the suffering? And there's no rush. There's only now, anyways. But if you understand that it is now, why not now be happy? I mean, it's that simple. It's that simple of a question. Sentence 8, offer your empathy to him, for it is his perception and his strength that you would share. And let him offer you his strength and his perception to be shared through you. To be shared through you. We become the vessels through which, just like Jesus, we bring the truth to the world because we are living it, we are embodying it. That's why Jesus said we would do greater works than him. He reached a whole bunch of people. There are millions of us doing this work. We can reach even more, but we're reaching it through listening to him, embodying those teachings. And then instead of sitting and waiting for, Jesus to have a second coming, we are the second coming. Because what we're doing is we're tapping into the Christ consciousness, into the Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it. We're tapping into the truth that elevates the consciousness of humanity. How are we going to have a peaceful planet? There are more of us who want to participate in peace and not war. If you're out protesting and shaming and blaming somebody else, that is not peace. That is war. You're at war with something. You're attacking something, which means you're weakening yourself and the others. You're not the redeemer in that situation. But you can be redeemed. All of us can be redeemed if we remember, wait a second, I'm a powerful creator. Creating to extend the kingdom or creating the solidity of it. If you're tired of the solidity, if you're tired of the same old, Course in Miracles will help you create something new, a new earth, a new way of being. But it is going to be very different than the old way that we have been trained into believing. Our minds were controlled to believe certain things, and now we get to control a mind but have to open it up to receiving new information. That's what I love sharing here. That's what the Awareness Academy is all about. I'm sharing the teachings of Jesus and helping you apply them to the best of my ability to how I apply them in my life. They've changed my life, but I've been at this for 25 years. But I can tell you it works. Now, you don't see big changes on the outside, but there's big changes on the inside. You're not going to hear me blaming or shaming or judging. You're not going to hear that coming from me. Why? Because that lowers my frequency, and I love me too much to do that to me. I'm not going to put that poison in me when I've spent 25 years releasing that poison and filling myself up with the truth of who I am. I am magnificent. I am powerful. I am loving. I am caring. I am inspiring. I am holy. I am generous. I am honest. I am faithful. I am very tolerant. These are beautiful things. I'm joyful. These are characteristics that are part of who we are. I'm defenseless. I don't defend myself to anybody anymore. You want to believe whatever you want to believe about me, that's okay. You're creating your own reality. I'm creating my reality that I'm not defending myself because it is not worth anything to me to lower my density and go to have a second, 3 minutes of righteousness. It's not worth it. I have to leave the perch of peace. Sorry, Charlie, but I am not doing that. I am not going to argue with you because it's not worth it for me. You're a powerful creator. You can believe whatever you want about me. It's so liberating. It's so peaceful. And it opens you up for so much time to participate in so many new things. I am all about the new systems, the new world. That's where I spend my time searching and discovering. And there is so much happening. Co-creating the new. It's just so exciting. It's so it's fun. It's an adventure. All right, friends, that's it. So we did chapter 16. We did still inside of section 1 through empathy. And today we got through paragraphs 4 and 5. So next week, we will continue from there. So this was episode 230. All of the other episodes are on my YouTube channel, so feel free to go there to find them. I love you so much. If anybody wants to say anything, um, was there anything inspiring in this chat, in this conversation? Unmute yourself and share it. If not, I can feel your love. Thank you all so much. See you next Wednesday.
Thank you, Laina.
Bye, sweetheart. Good to see you.
Bye.